This video isn't about fancy edits. It's just here for you to listen, soak it in, and take what you need. Throw on your headphones, whether you're on the bus, gaming, or doing anything that doesn't need much brain power. The point isn't to win an Oscar, it's to drop some real info. Victory exists before the battle begins. The path unfolds not in the moment of conflict, but in the 1,000 silent hours that precede it. I have walked these grounds before, felt this earth beneath my feet, heard this wind through the pines. The warrior does not hope for triumph. He has already secured it in the dark before dawn, when no eyes witness his practice. When others sleep, I sharpen. When others celebrate, I reflect. When others boast, I return to emptiness. The sword is not a weapon but a mirror. It shows all hesitation, all fear, all truth. I do not wield it. We move as one. To separate yourself from your weapon is to divide your mind from your body. This division is death, unity is life. In combat and in stillness, there must be no gap between intention and action, between breath and movement, between mind and universe. The true warrior leaves no space for doubt to enter. People speak of courage as if it were rare magic. It is nothing so mystical. Courage is simply clarity in motion. When you see reality without distortion, action flows naturally. Fear exists only in imagination, in the shadows cast by thoughts of what might be, what could happen, what others might think. These shadows vanish in the light of pure attention. I do not need to overcome fear. I simply need to see clearly. The ordinary mind is cluttered with unnecessary things, opinions that change nothing, worries that protect nothing, regrets that repair nothing. The warrior's mind is like a clean blade, nothing clings to it. I cut through illusion with attention. Each morning, I discard what is not essential. Each night, I return to fundamentality. This is not deprivation. This is freedom. The fewer possessions that own your attention, the more powerful your focus becomes. Most seek comfort. The warrior seeks tempering. Iron becomes steel through fire and hammering. The body becomes unstoppable through resistance and recovery. The mind becomes unshakable through challenge and reflection. I do not avoid difficulty. I move toward it with purpose. Each obstacle is a teacher more valuable than 1,000 agreeable companions. When you embrace hardship as the path itself, you cannot be defeated by circumstance. I have stood alone on mountaintops where the air is too thin for ego to survive. I have sat in silence until the boundaries between my body and the world dissolved. I have failed 1,000 times and found power in beginning again without self-pity. The warrior learns that solitude is not isolation, but communion with deeper truths. In quietness, the voice of wisdom speaks. In simplicity, the essential reveals itself. In patience, timing perfects itself. What separates victory from defeat is rarely strength. It is awareness. The superior warrior sees more, notices more, feels more. Not through strain, but through receptivity. My eyes see without naming. My ears hear without judging. My skin feels without wanting. This state of alert receptivity is both effortless and demanding. It requires the surrender of preconception. The mind that knows everything cannot learn anything. The warrior remains perpetually a student of reality. The untrained mind believes action requires tension. The master knows true power flows through relaxation. Observe the bamboo in strong wind. It bends completely, then returns unchanged. The rigid oak eventually breaks. I cultivate flexibility in body and mind, yielding when yielding serves, standing firm when firmness serves. There is no single correct response to all situations. The appropriate action emerges naturally when you remain adaptable and present. The path of the warrior is not aggression, but precision. Not domination, but effectiveness. Not struggle, but aligned action. I waste nothing. No movement, no breath, no thought, no emotion, no moment. Economy in all things creates abundance of power. When others exhaust themselves with unnecessary effort, I conserve my energy. When others speak many words, I listen. When others act hastily, I wait for the perfect moment. I do not fight time, but flow with it. Each second is a universe if experienced fully. Each moment has its own rhythm, its own tempo, its own nature. The warrior syncs with these rhythms rather than imposing his will against them. Swimming against, the current exhausts, moving with it, understanding its patterns, finding its channels. This is the way of water, and water, given time, overcomes all obstacles without struggle. There is a stillness at the center that nothing can disturb. Not victory, not defeat, not praise, not criticism, not pain, not pleasure. When you find this center and operate from, you become invincible not because you cannot be harmed, but because you cannot be moved from your foundation. The external world may crash against you like waves on rock, but your essence remains untouched. This immovable center is not stiffness, but groundedness. The difference is crucial. The common person seeks validation, the warrior seeks truth. Flattery and insult pass through me like wind through branches. Neither can alter my course. I am neither elevated by compliments nor diminished by criticism. Both are opinions, and opinions are not reality. Reality exists in direct experience, in the undeniable present, in what cannot be argued with. I live in this reality, not in the thoughts others have about me. Most fail not from lack of ability, but from lack of awareness of the challenges they face. They underestimate opponents, overestimate their readiness, ignore warning signs, deny weaknesses. The warrior assumes nothing. Before any contest, I thoroughly assess what lies before me without emotion clouding perception. I see things as they are, not as I wish them to be. This clarity may sometimes bring discomfort, but it never brings surprise. I have discovered that real strength has little to do with muscle and everything to do with patience. The capacity to endure, to persist beyond reasonable limits, to maintain focus when everything within and without screams for relief. This separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Endurance is not merely physical, but mental and spiritual. The body may scream to stop, but the disciplined mind remains unmoved by these protests. The greatest battles are fought against oneself. External opponents are merely reflections of internal weaknesses. When I face an enemy, I am really facing my own fear, my own hesitation, my own attachment to outcome. Victory over others is temporary and ultimately meaningless. Victory over oneself is permanent and transformative. I conquer myself daily, hourly, with each breath and each choice. This is the endless practice. The undisciplined seek constant variety, constant stimulation, constant change. They mistake this restlessness for freedom. True freedom comes from mastery, and mastery comes from depth, not breadth. I would rather dig one well 1,000 feet deep than 1,000 wells 1 foot deep. The first reaches water, the others reach nothing. Mastery requires focusing intensely on few things rather than superficially on many. This focus appears as limitation to the untrained eye, but reveals itself as liberation to the practitioner. I have studied the ways of the world enough to see the patterns beneath the chaos. Most people live reactively, responding to whatever appears before them. The warrior lives strategically, understanding that what appears before him is largely determined by his prior positioning. I place myself where opportunity converges, where advantage naturally accumulates. This is not manipulation, but alignment with the underlying currents of reality. The difference between the novice and the master is that the novice sees many possibilities while the master sees only what is essential. Complexity is the domain of the beginner. Simplicity is the domain of the expert. I have spent decades removing the unnecessary from my technique, from my understanding, from my life. What remains is pure effectiveness. No wasted motion, no extraneous thought, no unnecessary complexity. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The warrior knows that death is not something that might happen, but something that will happen. This knowledge does not breed fear, but clarity. When you fully accept your mortality, priorities instantly align. Petty concerns fall away. The essential becomes obvious. I live each day with death as my advisor, not my enemy. It reminds me to waste nothing, to appreciate everything, to act with purpose and deliberation. Without awareness of death, life lacks urgency and meaning. I have learned that timing cannot be forced but must be recognized. There is a moment when action is premature, a moment when action is optimal, and a moment when opportunity has passed. The difference may be milliseconds. The untrained mind cannot perceive these distinctions. Training develops this sensitivity not through theory, but through practice. 10,000 repetitions, and the body knows what the mind cannot explain. This knowing beyond knowing is intuition, the highest form of intelligence. The undisciplined seek pleasure and avoid pain. The warrior transcends both, recognizing them as temporary sensations that need not dictate action. Pain is information, not a command to stop. Pleasure is experience, not a goal to chase. When neither pain nor pleasure controls your decisions, you achieve a freedom unknown to most. This is not suppression of feeling, but transcendence of reactivity. I feel everything fully, but am governed by nothing. The warrior understands that rest is not weakness, but strategy. The bow always tensed eventually breaks. The mind always focused eventually fragments. The body always pushed eventually fails. I build recovery into everything, into training, into conflict, into daily rhythms. Strategic rest multiplies effectiveness. I accomplish more by doing less with perfect timing than others accomplish through constant activity. The pause between notes creates the music. Most seek the fastest path. The warrior seeks the surest path. Rushing creates error, and error creates vulnerability. I move at exactly the speed that allows perfect execution, sometimes explosively, fast, sometimes deliberately slow, always appropriately paced for the task at hand. When urgency arises, it is because preparation was insufficient. The prepared warrior remains calm in crisis because the crisis was anticipated and rehearsed long before it manifested. I have found that true power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling oneself. The mind that rules itself rules the world. The untamed mind is a dangerous master but a powerful servant. Daily, I practice restraining impulses, redirecting thoughts, focusing attention. This invisible discipline creates visible results. When others see only the outcome, they miss the process that created it. The process is everything. Results merely confirm what the process has built. The warrior walks between worlds, fully, engaged yet completely detached, intensely focused yet broadly aware, absolutely committed yet unattached to outcome. This paradoxical state cannot be understood intellectually, but must be lived experientially. I hold opposing forces in balance: aggression and peace, strength and flexibility, tradition and innovation, discipline and adaptability. This balance is not compromise, but integration of complementary forces. There is a difference between knowledge and understanding. Knowledge comes from study, understanding comes from application. I respect knowledge but trust only understanding. Theory without practice is hollow. Practice without theory is blind. I unite them through constant testing, refining, questioning. The warrior is perpetually both student and scientist, evolving. Theories through rigorous experimentation with reality as the only judge. When everything is stripped away, when possessions, relationships, reputation, identity are removed, what remains is the essential self. I have journeyed to this core. Through meditation, through extreme challenge, through voluntary simplicity, what I discovered there was unshakable, unchangeable, indestructible. This essence needs no defense, no validation, no enhancement. It simply is. Recognizing this truth is the foundation of the warrior's unshakable confidence. The ordinary person seeks to add. The warrior seeks to subtract. Addition creates complexity. Subtraction creates clarity. I do not ask what more I need, but what I can do without. Each thing removed creates space. Space for movement, for thought, for awareness. This space is not empty, but full of possibility. When your life contains only what truly matters, your power becomes concentrated rather than dispersed. Focus is elimination. I have walked the path long enough to know that mastery is not a destination, but a never-ending process. There is always deeper understanding, always greater refinement, always more subtle perception to develop. The master remains humble not from false modesty, but from direct experience of how much remains unknown. I bow daily before the vastness of what I have yet to learn. This humility is not weakness, but the ultimate strength, the strength to remain eternally a beginner in spirit while developing the skills of an expert. The warrior chooses discipline over everything, over comfort, over convenience, over temporary pleasure, over social approval. This choice appears as sacrifice to others, but feels like freedom to me. Discipline is not restriction, but power. It is the channel that directs the river of potential into the generator of achievement. Without these banks, the water disperses, becoming a shallow, stagnant pond rather than a force of nature. My discipline creates rather than constrains. In stillness, all becomes clear. When the water settles, the bottom becomes visible. When the mind quiets, truth emerges. I practice stillness daily, not as escape, but as essential preparation for action. From perfect stillness comes perfect movement. From absolute silence comes clarity of perception. The warrior knows when to move decisively and when to remain absolutely motionless. This knowledge comes not from thinking, but from the wisdom of the settled mind. In the end, there is only this moment, not the battle won yesterday, not the challenge coming tomorrow. Only this breath, this step, this thought, this action. Past and future exist only in imagination. Reality exists only now. The warrior lives completely in this eternal present, not through philosophy, but through absolute attention. I am fully here, completely present, totally engaged. This presence is the ultimate technique from which all other techniques derive their power. The path continues beyond horizon. I walk it with unwavering resolve, neither hastening toward some imagined arrival, nor lingering in accomplishment. Each step is both complete in itself and part of the endless journey. The warrior embraces this paradox. Absolute commitment to the path while recognizing there is no destination. In this understanding, striving without attachment becomes possible. I move forward not to arrive, but because moving forward is the nature of the warrior. This is the way that has no end.